Let's go ahead and get seated, and we'll move into the next forum, which is for the 29th District Judge. We will start off with opening remarks, and candidates will have 3 minutes, and we'll start with Jim Yoakum.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. Your consideration for a vote is greatly appreciated, and your attendance here tonight is appreciated as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Yoakum. I'm a candidate for Wyandotte County District Court Judge. It's an August 5th primary, a Democratic primary this next Tuesday. I was born and raised in Wyandotte County. I went to St. Pat's Grade School, Bishop Ward High School, Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and since I'm in the building, I have to say, go Blue Devils. I went to Kansas State University, Washburn University School of Law. Prior to becoming an attorney, I was a teacher and a coach in the Piper School District. I taught 8th grade American history for 4 years, and I was a baseball coach at the high school. I've been a practicing attorney in Kansas City, in and around Wyandotte County for the last 17 years. Over that time period, I've represented well over 1,000 people. Everyday people with everyday problems are the kinds of people that I represent. I take my clients one at a time. Each one of their cases is important to me, and I've always tried hard to take care of them. I've been telling people throughout this election, ask your family, ask your friends, or ask your attorney. You'll run into someone who knows me. I practiced in the area of probate law, contract law, civil law, criminal law, and family law. For 6 years, I was the municipal court prosecutor in the city of Edwardsville. It was a good experience for me. It forced me to get out of my comfort zone. It was the first time that I'd ever done any kind of prosecuting. I had to answer to the city administrator. There were budgetary concerns. I had to answer to the mayor, to the city council, and to the public. I'm also one of 10 contract attorneys who do juvenile work here in Wyandotte County. Juvenile work can be really rewarding, but it can also be heartbreaking. In child in need of care court, you meet a client who is at the worst day of their entire life, the day the state took their children away. Some of them listen, some of them don't. But the ones that listen, if they follow the court orders, when they get their children back, those are the days when I'm driving home at night and I think to myself, you know, this is a pretty cool thing to have a law license. I believe that I would be an asset to the court because the court administrator, the chief judge, could assign me to any docket, and I believe I have the experience that's necessary to handle it because I've been in that docket. Nobody knows exactly where the next district court judge is going to be assigned. There's some scuttlebutt about that. But wherever I'm assigned, I believe I can handle it. Why is this important to you? The district court is the place where the law most meets the lives of everyday people. It's the place where a well-qualified, experienced judge can most make the difference. I'm asking for the chance to make that difference. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for the chance to serve our community.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. And now we'll ask Tim for opening remarks. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Bland, and thank everyone for coming out this evening. I know it's getting kind of late, but I appreciate you all sticking around to listen to the two of us. My name, again, is Timothy Dupree, and I'm running for the same position as Mr. Yoakum. And I was born and raised here in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. I went to Northwest Middle School and Wyandotte High School. I'm also a Blue Devil. I graduated from Kansas City, Kansas Community College. I've furthered my education at the University of Kansas at KU, so I'm not really a K-State fan, but hey, it passed. Went to Washburn University School of Law, and I got my Juris Doctorate degree there. Following that, I became a prosecutor in Lyon County, Kansas, and as a prosecutor, I tried several felony cases. The reason why it's so important for everyone to choose the right judge and the person that is most qualified for this position is because, as Mr. Yoakum alluded to, the decisions that our judges make, they affect everyone. They affect more than just the parties involved in the case, but they affect their family, it affects their children, it affects legislation. In fact, you all sat here and listened to many of the other candidates, and how many of them mentioned judges, how many of them mentioned legislation and court rulings and how the different decisions made by judges affects them. So we know that the decisions that our judges make affect more than just the parties involved. And so you need to choose the person that is most qualified. I believe after tonight, and I believe if you do your research on all the candidates involved, you'll find that I am the most qualified for this position. Again, I was a prosecutor for 4 years. I've tried felony cases. I've tried felony murder cases. I've tried DUI cases. As a prosecutor, I've prosecuted child in need of care cases, juvenile cases. I've represented the state of Kansas before the Kansas Court of Appeals, also before the Kansas Supreme Court. I have quite a bit of experience as a private practice attorney. I've also worked in juvenile court. I've also worked in civil court. I've also worked in criminal court. This position that is coming up is more than likely going to be a criminal position. The way it works here in Wyandotte County is the judges with the seniority, they get to choose what position they want. And it's already pretty much been determined that another senior judge is going to take the position that Judge Bowl is in. Therefore, this is more than likely going to be a court judicial appointment, or election, where the judge will be handling felony cases predominantly and some other matters. So we're asking that you choose the right candidate, and I believe that I am.
Okay, now we'll move into the questions, and the candidates will have up to 5 minutes to answer the first question and a minute and a half for the second and third question. The first question, and we'll go to Jim Yoakum first. The general public does not seem to be very well informed about the role of judiciary. How would you propose improving this situation so that people would become better informed?
Well, like any good question, I think there's a lot of different answers to that. I think the first thing a judge needs to do to help the public learn about who he is or who he or she is and what they do is you need to have a judge who has a sense of community, who has a sense of involvement and investment in their community. You need to have a judge who gets out there in the public and talks to people. I think the individual who sits in that office can best convey to the public what they do. I would be all for some type of educational program or outreach program. That's a difficult process. It's probably more of a decision for the legislature because I'm sure there would have to be some kind of funding. The other area that a judge can make a big difference in educating the public is if there's a jury trial. In a typical jury situation, you'll have up to 100 jurors that get called for jury duty. It's the responsibility of the judge to educate them about the law and to educate them about the process. I think that taking your time and making sure that you can explain that process in great detail and taking your time and making sure that potential jurors understand exactly what's expected of them when they come in is a very important part of what a judge has to do, and is a very important part of educating the public. I think being very specific and knowing exactly what you want to say in those situations is an important part of what a judge should do. Those are all the things that I think, and the other thing that I think we should throw out there is I think a judge and any elected official should do everything they can to encourage the public to be responsible. A night like tonight, when I see all of the people in here that are attending, that are trying to get involved, is a very important thing, and I would urge each and every one of you to try and spread the word, to try and encourage people to learn more about their government and judges.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
How I believe we can further educate the population is simply by asking them to exercise their rights. The courtrooms in the United States is open. It's open to the public, absent certain situations. And so I encourage everyone to go and sit in on a court hearing. You can come to the courthouse Monday through Friday and you'll find some type of court proceeding going on. I think that's one good way for everyone to learn, at least hands-on, how the system works. Again, also talk to other people. We use the internet and we use the Facebook and things of that nature to learn a lot of things. Some of it doesn't really matter and some of it shouldn't even be learned. But I think if we would take the time to learn those things that are important, how does the judicial system work? Also, what are the candidates? Who are the candidates? What's the important roles of the different individuals? I think is paramount, and we need to exercise every effort that we can. Don't leave it just to the judges. That's one of the most important things that we have to realize. The judge has a specific role, but the judge isn't the end all at all in the courtroom. The judge is a servant. Judge isn't a sovereign. He's a servant. And he should sit there and he should listen to the evidence and to the parties involved and make decisions based on the law, not based on with an effort to try to do anything other than hear the case and make the right legal ruling fairly, unbiasedly, and in a manner that is appropriate with dignity. Interestingly enough, I was sitting in the hallway and a young lady came to me and said, why do you want to be a judge? Just a matter of minutes ago. And I told her, well, I want to be a judge because I want to help people. She said, well, tell me this. What if I was in your courtroom and my cell phone rang and you told me to turn it off and I didn't turn it off? Would you yell at me? Would you scream at me? Would you throw me in jail? I said, no, I would tell you to turn the cell phone off. Well, what if I didn't know how? Because honestly, I don't. This is what she said. I said, then I would ask you to leave the courtroom until you can figure it out. The point that I'm making is the judge's role should be to be a servant, should be to demonstrate what the individuals should be. Caring, considerate, but yet doing their job and knowing their role and exercising justice appropriately, fairly, and without any type of discrimination.
We'll move on to the next question, and you'll have a minute and a half to respond to this. Judges in Wyandotte County presently must run in partisan elections. Do you favor or oppose this system? Why or why not? And we'll start with Jim.
Can I answer that question after August 5th? Because I think I'll have an opinion about it. It has been the decision of our legislature to have judges run for office. There was a discussion a few years back about whether or not we should do this. And that may actually come up again. So I'm not quite sure that as a candidate for judge, I should give a firm opinion one way or another about what may end up being something that's decided later by the legislature. But I respect the process. I have enjoyed this process. It's been a good experience for me. I've enjoyed meeting people. I've enjoyed running for office. And I'm ready for Tuesday. And it's just been a good experience, and I want to thank everybody for being here.
Okay. Tim?
As a judicial candidate, we're required to follow the same rules that the judges are, and so we're not able to really put out our personal opinions or our personal views on certain things, and the question that you're asked would kind of lend to that. But I think it is important to note that that is the law. The law in Kansas is the judges have to go through this process. That's fine. That's what we should have to do because that's what the law is. That's what we need to recognize. That's what a good judge recognizes, is that regardless of if you're in agreement with the law or you're not in agreement with the law is the law, and you must follow that. And all the parties involved, that's exactly what we've been doing, is following the law. And so we need a judge that will follow the law and be able to make a decision based on what the law is, regardless to if you're in opposition to that law for whatever reason. As a judge, you should follow that law.
Okay.
And that's what I intend to do.
Okay, thank you. Funding of all government branches is an issue today. Concerning the judiciary, what would you propose that would make that branch of government more efficient without endangering the quality of service? And we'll start with Jim.
I think every judge should strive to make his courtroom as efficient as he possibly can. Efficiency in government, and when I mean efficiency, as much as anything I'm talking about, you should be efficient with the time that people have when they come to you. The public, the attorneys, the plaintiffs and defendants that are in the room, Their time is valuable, and efficiency with their time is something that all judges should strive to do. From a monetary concern, I don't believe that a judicial candidate can make a comment about that simply because it's the legislature that has the power of the purse. It's the legislature that's going to decide how much money is spent on a court and how much isn't. But again, efficiency in the courtroom is something that all judges should strive for. It's something that I would absolutely try to administer in my court, and it's something that I believe is very important.
Okay. Tim?
Well, concerning that question, I think the most important thing for the judges to do is to hold everyone in that courtroom accountable. As an attorney practicing law for the past 10 years, 4 years as a prosecutor, 6 years now in private practice, you have seen, or I have witnessed, that not everyone is held accountable on all levels at the same time. I believe it's important for the judge to hold everyone accountable. If you have a court hearing that's scheduled to start at a certain time, I believe that all parties should be accountable and be required to be there and to start the proceedings. However, I think that it's most important that we not get in such a rush that individuals' rights are being compromised. Again, my position, the judge should be a servant and not a sovereign. It shouldn't be so focused on hurrying up the cases that individuals feel that they're not having their side heard. We've witnessed that in such things as voir dire and things of that nature. We have to allow the court to be efficient, but at the same time recognizing that it's the individual's rights and their lives that are most important, and that they should have the opportunity to make sure that they feel that their case is being heard, and not just the individuals, but even the attorneys that are involved.
Okay, now we'll move to closing remarks. You will have 2 minutes, and we will start with Jim.
A judge's race is a little bit different than a typical political race. Judges are, and judicial candidates are, and should be held to a higher standard. Throughout this campaign, I have welcomed that standard, and I have asked people to hold me to it. Some of the standards that you should be held to are honesty and full disclosure. As I've talked about my experiences, I have tried to be not only to the letter of the law truthful, but to the spirit. When I made a claim that I was a prosecutor, I gave full disclosure, municipal court prosecutor in the city of Edwardsville. I don't believe that someone who lays claim to be a prosecutor is such if they don't have a license to practice law. When I made a claim earlier in this campaign that I was a lifelong resident of Wyandotte County, I mean just that, lifelong. If you'll look at my printed material, if there's any endorsement claims by my campaign, I have an official endorsement from that individual or from that group. Judges are and should be held to a higher standard. I welcome that. I ask you to hold myself and all the candidates to that standard. People have asked what kind of characteristics make a good judge. There's a lot of things. Knowledge of the law, experience, sense of community, the ability to be fair and impartial, being able to treat people as you would like to be treated. One aspect or one characteristic that I have thrown out there that I think important is humility. A judge should realize that they are not the most important thing in the courtroom. A judge should realize that the most important thing in the courtroom are the facts of the case and the law. I have told people throughout this campaign that if I'm elected, I will be a humble public servant. I will remember where I came from. Thank you for your support, and thank you guys for your time.
Okay. Tim?
Like I said earlier, the judge's decisions affect everyone, and it affects a host of other people in legislation and things of that nature. And so I look at it kind of how you would look at anything, except even more so, which is take a McDonald's employee, for instance. You don't just have a McDonald's employee come in and become a manager. No, they have to be trained. They have to have experience. Well, if we have requirements for just McDonald's workers or Burger King workers or what have you, and experience is paramount, most definitely a judge should have experience. Most definitely we should hold that position and hold the people that take that position to the same standard. When you look at my credentials and look at my qualifications versus the other candidates, you'll see that I'm more qualified and have more experience than all the candidates. I'm the only candidate in this race who's argued before the Kansas Court of Appeals and the Kansas Supreme Court. I'm the only candidate in this race who have had the opportunity to try felony murder cases. I'm the only candidate in this campaign or in this race that had the opportunity to prosecute felony cases. The position, again, that is coming up is going to be dealing with those type of cases. You should choose the most qualified candidate. Also, I think it's important to look at those endorsements that were mentioned. Who endorses who? I believe that's very important. You can look at my endorsement. The individual entity that works closest with the judges endorsed me, and that's the Fraternal Order of Police. So the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department has endorsed me as their candidate of choice. I believe that should be taken also into your consideration when you decide who should be the next judge. And so on August 5th, I ask everyone to vote for Timothy Dupree for District Court Judge.
Okay. Thank you very much for these candidates, and this concludes our forum.